All right, lesson 15.3, the percent proportion. Just a reminder, a proportion is an equation stating that two ratios are equal. You may want to take a moment and copy down everything I already have written, and then you can just kind of pick up and listen to what I'm about to explain, okay? So the goal for today's lesson is to solve percent problems using proportions. We've done this a lot already. We've just solved them in a ratio table, and it's really not going to be that much different, okay? When we did ratio tables, we had to remember that a percent is a part to whole ratio, where the whole or the denominator is always 100. So when we set up a proportion, this is the format that it's going to look like, okay? So we're going to use part to whole equals percent over 100, and the word is going to help us determine which is the part, and the word of is going to help us determine what number represents the whole. Remember, we talked about of really meaning out of. Like if you had a test out of 20 points, that would be the whole. That would be the denominator. Okay? So let's try a couple problems together. So here's what they're going to look like. What percent of 15 is 12? Okay, so again, here's what we're gonna use. And it doesn't matter if you flip-flop these and put the percent ratio first and the part to whole ratio second. Okay, and you may want your guiding words over here, part to whole. Okay, and that will help us keep things organized. So if we break up this question, it's asking us, what is the percent? Well, we don't know what the percent is. What percent? So we can use a variable to represent that percent. Maybe we just want to use P. And we always know, even if we don't know what the percent is, we know percents are part to whole ratios out of 100, okay? So then it says, what percent of 15? So maybe you had a science vocabulary quiz and it's out of 15. That would be the whole, okay? Is 12, okay? So just a couple reminders, when we solve proportions, I always encourage you to see if you can reduce one of the ratios first. And this one, you definitely can, and I recommend doing that. So this ratio can be reduced. It can be divided by 3, and we get a reduced ratio of 4 to 5. Drop down the second half of our proportion, and you have a choice. You can use cross products to solve. You can use equivalent ratios. In this case, it's pretty easy to get from 5 to 100. That would be multiplying by 20. So to keep it equal, we do the same thing to the numerator. Multiply by 20. 4 times 20 is 80. So the percent is 80, and don't forget that percent sign, okay? Let's do just a couple more, and I think that you'll get the hang of it. Okay, number 2. What number is, we don't know what the number is, 36% of 50? Okay, so we're gonna use the same format. We just have different information that we know in this case, okay? So we're gonna go back to using our setup here. It tells us what the percent is, okay? So we can fill that in right away. 36 is the percent. Percents are always out of 100. And then we have to figure out what goes here. Well, again, you probably want these guiding words off to the side. We're using a part to whole ratio. And then it tells us this, of 50. Again, I want you to think of it as out of. If you had a test out of 50, that's the whole amount. And it says, what number is? We don't know what the number is. That's our part. Remember, is our guiding word to help us with the part, okay? So then from here, we need to figure out the value of x. You could reduce your ratio like we did here. You could use cross products, but consider the numbers first, okay? So I need to get from 100 to 50. So that's simply dividing by 2. 36 divided by 2 is 18. So the missing number in this case is 18. Okay, let's try just one more together. I need a new page for the last one. Okay, number 3. 150% of what number is 24? So I'm going to set up my proportion, is over of, or maybe part to whole. That's what we practiced on the last two. Okay, so let's deal with our percent first. So percents are always out of 100, no matter what the percent is. Of what number? Out of what number? We don't know what it's out of. We know that part of it is 24. Okay? So maybe in this case, you do want to start by reducing your ratio. These can be divided by 50. And we get a 3:2 ratio as our reduced ratio. Drop down the last part of our proportion. And now, from 3, we can multiply by 8 to get to 24. Do the same thing to 2. 2 times 8 is 16. So our missing value is 16. Yes, it is. And that completes the lesson. Bye.